What's up, YouTube? So, for anyone that's unaware, I actually just recently hit Challenger on the Korean server as a HECARIM one trick with a 60% win rate. So, this was my account. I went from unranked to unofficial Challenger. It's gonna actually get the Challenger promotion when the ladder updates in a few hours. And as you guys can see, it was mainly only HECARIM. And every single game was like pretty much a 1v9, even in Korean Grandmaster Challenger Elo against LCK pros every single game. And we actually went from unranked to Challenger in the span of 11 days, playing about 30 games a day. So, with that being said, I thought that I would actually create a HECARIM guide in which I would kind of like go over everything that made it so that I hit Challenger on the Korean server, so that hopefully you guys can do the same as well. The runes are not complex at all. Back in the day, everyone used to always ask me, Phase Rush or Conquer, when do I do this, when do I do that, right? But nowadays, it's actually very simple. You run the same rune setup every single game, no matter what. What is the rune setup? Phase Rush primary with Nimbus Cloak, Water Walking, and Celerity. And then secondary, you're going to go Ultimate Hunter and Eyeball Collection. Phase Rush makes it so you can catch up to enemies quicker. And like everything in the sorcery tree, pretty much, you can either catch up to enemies faster or you can run away from them faster. So if you're in a good matchup, you can snowball it harder. If you're in a bad matchup, you can escape it easier, right? And now the other thing, right? The main thing about this rune setup is that I've always kind of gone Phase Rush. But nowadays, the reason why that I go Ultimate Hunter secondary is because I realized that when you're playing HECARIM, you're very ult reliant. And as a result, having lower cooldown on your ult makes it so you can go for more ganks, more objective plays, and just get more kills. And it just helps you a lot with like snowballing, especially in higher elos, where when you're looking to teamfight, you can't really do anything without your ults, right? Now, where it becomes a little more complex is in itemization. So right now, HECARIM has a few different builds, right? We're going to go over them. The first one is the Assassin build. So you're going to go this rune setup, or this build path, when the enemy team has very little to no lockdown. So what is a lockdown champ? Something like, let's say, Rakan that can point and click like RW, Nautilus who can sit there point and click ults you, Lissandra who point and click ults you, right? Any champion that has undodgeable CC is a lockdown champion. When the enemy team has more than 2 of these champs, you never go lethality. So think Renekton is another one for like top lane, for example, right, with his point and click stun. Or for jungle, a good example would be like Maokai, right? So if the enemy team has more than 2 lockdown champs, you never go the lethality build. If they don't have any lockdown champs, or they only have 1, then you do go the lethality build. So now what is the lethality build? You want to rush Ionian boots every game. And then you want to get your tier on your first back, okay? So if you have to, you can even do tier 1 boots tier, right? Whatever it is. But you always want to make sure you're getting tier on your first back. So go tier Ionian boots. After this, you're going to sit there. Oh, it's also worth noting that you always want to go blue smite no matter what. Blue smite, no potion every game. So then after this, you're going to want to get your Duskblade. Duskblade is if the enemy team is mainly squishy champions. So imagine 4 or more of their champions on their team don't build armor, right? Then you're going to want to go Duskblade. If they have, let's say, a tankier top side, where their top laner is Fiora, their jungler is Udyr, their mid laner is, let's say, Aurelia, then in cases like this, you don't want to do Duskblade, you actually want to do Eclipse. So it's either Duskblade or Eclipse, depending on if the enemy team is tankier or not, okay? So after Duskblade, you're going to want to do one of 2 things. If your tier is almost fully stacked, then you're going to want to get your Mirror Mana. If it's not, then you want to get Shojin, okay? So it's either Shojin or it's Mirror Mana, right? And then afterwards, right, if you go Shojin as your second item, then you want to get Mirror Mana as your third, and after this you could build whatever you want. An example full build would be like, let's say maybe Serylda's into Black Cleaver, okay? If you sit there and you go Mirror Mana second, then the beauty of Mirror Mana second is that you actually have a lot more options. You can choose to go Serylda's third, you can choose to go Shojin third, you can choose to go Cleaver third. It really depends on what you feel like you need in the game. So if the enemy team is tankier, you need armor penetration, well, go Black Cleaver. If the enemy team runs away from you, they have a lot of mobility, right? Then you want to go Serylda's. If the enemy team kind of fights you and you just need more upfront power, then you go Shojin. With Eclipse, it's the same. It's the same thought process. But since the enemy team is normally tankier, right? Then instead of going Shojin, you're usually going to go Cleaver, and then you'll go like Cyril does, for example, right? So an example full build would be like this. So that's for the lethality build. So now, imagine the enemy team goes a lockdown comp. Their jungler goes Maokai, their mid laner goes Lissandra, their support's Nautilus. In a case like this, you're going to do a completely different build. So you're always going to want to still rush Lucidity Boots, no matter what, right? But you're not actually forced to get tier on your first back. You can get it after you build your first item, whenever you feel like you need it. The build path with this build is a little more complex though. If the enemy team has a lot of healing, so imagine their top laner is Fiora, their jungler is Maokai, their mid laner is Silas, then you're gonna want to get Chainsword as your first item. Okay. If the enemy team is more so tankier, so imagine they have like a Maokai jungle, Nautilus support, and their top laner is Set, then you're gonna want to go Cleaver Rush. Okay. And if the enemy team they have a lot of lockdown, but they're squishy. So imagine they have like Recon support, Lissandra mid, and that's their only lockdown. Then you're going to want to go Shojin Rush. So versus squishier comps, Shojin, versus tanker comps, Cleaver, versus comps that heal, Chainsword. Let's say we're doing Chainsword Rush. Then your second item has to be another one of the three components. So you either have to go Cleaver if they're tankier, or you're going to go Shojin if they're squishier. Then by this point, you'll already have your tier getting like pretty much fully stacked, right? Because you bought it after your first item. So if you have a lead and you need more damage, you go Mirror Mana as a third item, and then you get Radiant Virtue as a fourth item. And then as the last item, you could build whatever you want. You want to get Sterax, you want to get Cleaver, whatever you want to get, it's up to you, right? Let's say the enemy team was tankier and you want Cleaver Rush, right? Then your second item would definitely want to be Shojin. And then third item, let's say you're not really too far ahead. Well, then you're going to go Cleaver. Then you'll want to finish your Mirror Mana. And then after that, you might want to go Cyril does, right? So this is an example full build. Now that's it for itemization. Now we'll just get into the main thing, right? And this is the thing that made it so that I got Challenger Korea. Whereas most HECARIM one-tricks even have trouble making it out of Diamond in like US or NA nowadays because they say the champion is weak. Pathing is the biggest thing. And it's the reason why I had Challenger. It's the reason why I'm able to out-jungle LCK pros every game. And it's the reason why I'm able to take a champion like HECARIM, make him unpredictable, and just 1v9 games. Hear me out. So what you're going to want to do is you have a few different options, okay? Option A is a full clear top to bot. Option B is a full clear bot to top. Option C is a 3-cam clear of your red side with Raptor start. Option D is a 3-cam clear of your wolves, right? And option E is an early invade, whether it be on the enemy's Raptors, on the enemy's blue, whatever it is. So there are 5 different potential pathing options that you can choose every game. In lower elos, I would typically recommend to full clear every game because the thing is you normally can't trust your teammates, and as a result, you don't want to take any pathing things or any pathing options that would put reliance on your team. Once you start getting to the higher elos, right? So let's say higher Emerald or Diamond plus whatever it is, then you can start exploring other options. But in lower elos, like let's say Gold, Platinum, it is always better to just full clear every game because it's your most consistent way to get a lead. And if you have good enough mechanics, then you'll 1v9 the game. Let's discuss when you do which option. So imagine the top laners are in a swing matchup. Imagine it's something like Camille versus Yone, and they both took Ignite. Neither has Flash. In a scenario like that, right, you would look at the game and you would say, I want to impact top as early as possible and get a free kill. So I'm going to start on my Wolves, 3-cam clear upwards, and then just go for gang top. If the same is true for bot lane, then you want to go for your 3-cam clear bot side. So imagine your support locks in Nautilus, the enemy support locks in Thresh, and you know that you want to make sure that you get to bot for level 3 so you can go for an early gank there. Then a 3-cam clear towards bot is another option. If your team drafts very safe lanes, right? So imagine your top laner went Kayle and your bot lane went, I don't know, your support went Soraka, right? In cases like this, there's no early impact you can do, so you want to full clear, right? 90% of the time, if you're going to full clear, you're going to want to full clear top to bot, right? Full clearing bots at top, it's not even worth getting into because even I never do that, right? So full clearing bots at top, never do that. Always just full clear top to bot. And the reason why you want to full clear top to bot is so that you can get bot lane level 4 off your full clear and potentially go for a gank bot. Or let's say there's no options, then after your second full clear, it actually puts you on the same side of the map as dragon. So if the enemy jungler clears upwards and you clear downwards, then you just do dragon for free as like a 7th camp, okay? There is one thing to keep in mind though. When you are playing versus invade junglers, you have to do a 3-camp clear every single game. And the reason why is because HECARIM's biggest weakness early game is getting invaded. Why? Because he takes Ghost, he doesn't have Flash. As a result, if the enemy jungler goes something like Talia, or Lee Sin, or Viego, or Kha'Zix, or Rengar, then they're going to look to kill you on your 5th camp every single game. So they're either going to invade you on your red when you're doing red, or they're going to invade you on your blue when you're doing blue. But they will kill you on your second buff, always, always, always. So this is the reason why doing the 3-camp clear versus champions like this is so broken. Because let's say I'm playing versus Kha'Zix, right? And I decide to sit here, and I 3-camp towards top side, I play for an early top gank, it works. Now I reset, I have tier 1 boots and I'm full HP, I get to my red buff, if he tries fighting me, he loses. Right? So the reason why 3-camp clearing versus invade junglers like Talia is another good example, right? As I mentioned, is because it takes away their opportunity to shut you down from level 1 because they can't actually do an invade since your pathing is so unpredictable. Okay? So that's the biggest thing right now. It's unpredictability. So the other option for pathing that we discussed was going for an early invade. The times you want to do this is when you draft significantly stronger lanes early. Imagine the enemy top laner goes Malphite and your top laner has Ignite Riven. Early invade the Raptors or red 100% of the time. Why? Because you will always win that 2v2. If your bot lane drafts Nautilus Kai'Sa and the enemy bot lane drafts Ezreal Sona, early invade their bot side level 1. Why? Because you're going to win 100% of the time. So these are the different pathing options you can take, as well as different itemization options that you can take. If you're wondering about how do you actually play games while they're being played, I have a bunch of informative videos on my channel where I kind of like explain my thought process during the game. So you guys can check that out. But thought process during game is normally just like take opportunities that present themselves and then make sure that you're sacking dragons. Because dragons are by far the most broken thing in the game since it always allows you to play soul and it always denies the enemy's ability to play for soul. So that's why playing dragons, number one important thing to make sure you're keeping in mind for the mid-game macro. But besides that, it's just about getting better as a jungler and making better decisions, right? HECARIM is a champion that's all about observing the map, finding the free kill opportunities and all that kind of stuff. So as long as you're paying attention to the map, you should be good. But that being said, I hope this video helps you guys. If it does, be sure to leave a like, sub if you haven't already, and I will see you all for the next videos. Peace.